welcome guys. This is my Finding Deals Masterclass. We're gonna go into a lot of other things to give you a great framework, really for the business in general. With that is gonna be incredible opportunity. Everything is going on sale. There's gonna be a lot of stuff coming back, which is why there's opportunity, incredible opportunity. So you are in the right freaking place, let me tell you. Now we're gonna focus on finding deals for these next 3 hours, okay? Because I've got a bunch of ninja tricks that I wanna share with you, but we've got a lot of stuff to cover, but I wanna give you a little framework first. So why do multifamily? Right? Why do multifamily? Well, here's why. Okay, here, let me turn my little thing on here so I can have fun with this. So cash flow, hello. That's the reason my podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow. Right? All right, of course, the tax benefits are freaking incredible. I don't pay taxes. I haven't paid taxes in a decade because I own real estate and that's all, it's all I do. Of course, appreciation. Now, the beautiful thing about multifamily is you can force that appreciation. It's called value add because any increase to the net income is it's called the NOI, the net operating income, is an exponential increase to the value. Okay, so, I'll give you an example. We have a 296 unit asset in San Antonio and we numbered the parking spaces. Okay, we allowed the tenants to have their own parking spot, reserved spot, $25 a month for the privilege. We had 100 of them take it, just right at about 100 actually. It was kind of funny. That was an $800,000 increase in value, guys, okay? That's why we love this freaking business, because you can force that appreciation to by your efforts. Any increase to that bottom line, exponential increase to value. It's about $17 to $20 to $1 increase in net income. It's incredible. Of course, the thing you never think about is the principal reduction. 5 years from now, your loan's gonna be lower. And the beautiful thing is acquisition fees. People charge typically between 3% and 5% acquisition fees. And I can tell you on the last deal that I did, it was $1 million. Okay. So the partners in that, the general partners got to split $1 million and it's expected. The investors expect it because when you do a syndication, I don't want to go too far down the rails here. The general partners will split up the general partnership and, they'll typically pay a preferred rate of return to the investors. So the investors get a certain amount of money off the top. Then anything over and above that is split. Well, as you're doing your value add, there's not going to be a lot of cash flow the first year or two. So that acquisition fee, you need it, okay? But it's incredible. It's real money, significant money. You also will likely charge an asset management fee. Now, by the way, on the acquisition, we almost always do 3%. And on the asset management fee, we typically do 2% of the gross collected rents. So you got money coming in from that as well. Now, if you decide to manage yourself and you've got partners, you can do property management fees. So a lot of ways to make money in this business, guys. It's very, very exciting. Okay. All right. So let's talk. Oh, that didn't lay out well, did it? Okay. That says selecting your initial markets to evaluate. Okay. So what I want to do is, the beautiful thing about this business is you can buy assets in any market, across the country. Now I'm going to suggest you don't go all the way across the country, but I've got assets in 7 states, a lot in Texas, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, Indianapolis, and on and on. So, but that's the beautiful thing about this business is you can literally own assets away from you. But I'm going to suggest when you're picking a market to stick with these 4 things to consider first. The first place would be your backyard, obviously. Now I'm calling your backyard anywhere that you can drive to in 2 hours. I live in Sarasota, Florida. For me, that would be Orlando, Tampa, Fort Myers. So anywhere 2-hour drive, because you can manage it with day travel, okay? The second place would be a place well. Maybe you grew up. For me, that's Denver. Hell, I can still name every street across Denver because I own houses on most of them. If you went to school somewhere, grew up somewhere, that would be option number 2 because you know it, right? Third option would be a place you got boots on the ground. Maybe it's friends or family that live there, so they know what's going on. They got their ear to the ground. They know what's happening there. So that's the third option. And the fourth place would be a place you really enjoy going. Might even want to retire. So I would suggest that those are your first 4 options. Now, if none of those make sense, only thing I'm going to tell you is what I said earlier is don't go all the way. If you live in New York, don't go to freaking California, although I wouldn't invest in either of those 2 states anyway. Listen, by the way, not a political statement. Don't invest in blue states. I'd suggest you don't. I mean, unless you really are hell-bent on doing it. The regulations are ridiculous. The taxes are ridiculous. They're just not business friendly. Their budget deficits are huge. They're like 30 billion, I believe, in New York and California budget deficits for 1 year. And how are they going to make those up? They're going to raise taxes more. So again, I stick with red states. It's not a political statement, although I lean that way in a big way politically, but that's not why I'm saying it. It's just a cost of doing business, okay? So, but again, don't go all the way. What I meant to say in that statement before I derailed politically is don't go all the way across the country. That's stupid. Okay. There's enough low hanging fruit close to you is what I meant to get into. Now, here's what you look for in a market. These are some of the things you look for. You definitely want to see that population's growing. You want to see that income growing. But the most important thing is that there's jobs growth. There aren't employers moving out. There are employers moving in. Now, when I at my boot camp, we give you a sample deal package. And the reason I bring this up is there are a couple other things in there. We give you a sample deal package for when you approach investors. You can say, print it and just say, hey, this is what we look for. If we find a deal like this, would you be interested? And so that's one of the things you get there. But the reason I bring that up is in that it's a presentation of a deal. In that we point out a couple other things that are super important in a marketplace. One is you want to see employment industry diversity, okay? You want to see multiple types of employment, super important. And you also want to see as far as income, you want to make sure the submarket that you're buying in, there's a big disparity between the income and the amount of rent you're charging, because we want to make sure they make 3 times the rent in income. So that's super important as well. And then the other thing that's not, I don't have a slide for here, is you look at the median home price. And I'm going to give you some websites. I think, let's see if they're coming up here. Okay, let me tell you a couple other things here, but I'm going to give you some websites where you can check all this stuff out. Also, no one-horse towns, no one employers. I was looking at apartments where my wife's come from, which is Belleville, Illinois, and there's a big military base there. And so I didn't do it because that's a one-horse town. Okay, because if that horse dies or gets sick or leaves town, you're screwed if you've got assets there. Big deal. You want multiple employers, okay? Well, there it is right there. I guess I did have it on a slide. Now, let me talk about the median home price, okay? If you want to make sure that there is a significant difference between this median home price and the price per unit that you're paying, okay? Very important. And that's the reason I brought up that sample deal package, because we point that out, because it's so important that there's a disparity between income and rents and median home price and price per unit. Why? Because if it's close, they're going to buy a place instead of rent. Okay? Super important. And you want to see vacant housing less than 20%. Not a lot of places that you're going to find that it's more than 20%, maybe Detroit, places like that, but it is very important regardless. Okay, here's the city infrastructure I look for. I want to see a city that has at least 100,000 people, ideally. Now, that's not hard and fast. I'd probably go 70 or 80,000, but I also want to make sure it's got an airport with one major carrier, like Sarasota here. We've got Delta and American here. Actually, we got several here now. But I want to know that it has a highway to it or runs through it. And I want to know that there's a nice shopping area. It can be a mall or it can be just an area of shops. Those are like must-haves, okay? But those are things you want to look for. If you've got a town that's got 2,500 people in it, you're going to have a hard time, first of all, getting debt, number one, but number two, telling me that it makes sense because of the lack of jobs, okay? All right, now here's the websites I wanted to give you. So make note of these. Census.gov is one. Actually, it should be a hyphen here. Forgive me, that's a typo. It should be city-data.com. So there's a hyphen in here that I missed. If you'd make note of that, so I fixed that. Thank you. Bestplaces.net is another one. datausa.io. Okay, these are websites to check demographics. I'm going to tell you, have fun with this. Don't get intimidated by checking out the demographics. Just have fun with it. Go play with it. Put in where you live now. Put in where you're thinking, and see what all what the makeup is of the demographic that lives there, and just start playing with it. That's the operative word. Play with it. Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about finding deals. Okay, I know you're like, oh, come on, let's get on with the finding deals. Okay, all right. So here's a big distinction. The most successful people in my Warrior program, which is my coaching program, I'll brag about that for a second. So I've got a coaching program they call My Warriors. I've been teaching about 5 years. They now own, we're pretty sure, around 170,000 units in 5 years. I'm freaking proud of that, and really proud of that. And we're counting, and we're about 160 now, and I'm certain there's another 10,000. So it's just pretty extraordinary. But a lot of my super successful warriors put on their problem solver hat. And when you do that, success is inevitable. Okay. So, all right. So it starts. Now this business, by the way, my most successful warriors are the ones that are the most connected in the warrior community, because this is freaking critical. This business is more about, I'm going to tell you, this business is more about who you know than what you know. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. You know, you've got to learn this business, but if you know, it's really relationships. And if you're an introvert, you're just going to have 5 seconds of courage. I used to be an introvert, you know, when I had that limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. And I just forced myself to have 5 seconds of courage and walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm Rod, I don't think we've met. And then I used to have a list of questions in my back pocket that I would ask them so I could control the conversation. I took a genuine interest in them. You can get this in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie's book. But that's how I got past that. So if that's you, I get it. And I know there's a little bit of fear there. If you come to my boot camp, you will meet, there should be about 1,000 people there. And I force the interaction. So just know, if you come, you're going to end up having to stand up and meet some people. And it's okay, because that really is the secret to success in this business, which is why I push it. We have a lot of fun with it. In fact, at the boot camp, we put a map up on the monitors, and we have people with signs that say, hey, this is California, this is the North, I'm typically Canada, and then Florida. And we have every people go to where they live, and then they meet people near them. So, you know, this is very, very important. But it really is a relationship driven business. Okay. And it's impossible to do it alone. I'm just going to tell you, you don't buy, you know, 10, 20, 30, $40 million apartment complexes on your own. You just don't. It's a team sport. Okay. And that's the beautiful thing about it, because there's a lot of hats you can wear on the team. You know, you can be the one that finds the deals like you're learning today. You could be the one that underwrites them. Maybe you're super analytical and you need to underwrite, you know, and you love spreadsheets. Or you could be, maybe you're process driven or have some construction experience or project management experience. You could do the asset management. So there's a lot of different hats you can wear here. And make sure, by the way, guys, make sure you stay hydrated, okay? If you get tired, you're probably dehydrated, just FYI, okay? All right. So who do you need relationships with? Well, obviously, if you're going to go direct to seller, which I'm going to teach you how to do today, I'm going to teach you how to go directly to seller for deals. You're going to have relationships with them, right? If you're going to raise money, which I highly recommend you do, okay, you're going to have relationships with investors. With what's happening economically, I would highly encourage you to get relationships with bankers, local and regional bankers, because there's going to be deals. I'm telling you guys, the commercial real estate right now is like this train headed towards a brick wall. Okay, there's all this commercial debt coming due. A lot of people use bridge debt, which is adjustable rate loans, short-term, very onerous debt, and they're in trouble. Okay, and we're going to see a lot of foreclosures. They've already kicked up. A lot of office is a train wreck. In fact, I'll share something with you real quick. I gotta manage timer. We're going to be here for 5 hours, but let me just. This is this month's Forbes. Okay. Let me just share something with you if I can find it real quick. Well, I remember it. There were the 6 major cities that have office debt. Their average occupancy, this was mind-blowing, is 70%. Okay. Now, what you need to understand with the multifamily and any commercial real estate asset, I should have had it ready here. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but any commercial real estate asset, if it's not at 85, 90%, it's not breaking even. Okay. And already a lot of this stuff has gone. Here we go. Yeah, New York is at 80%, but if you average these, it's about 70%. Chicago 70%, LA 70%, San Francisco 67%, Houston under 70%. So you get the idea. And there have already been some big foreclosures where distressed assets like billions have gone back to banks. So here's my point in all of this. Bankers are going to be taking properties back, and there will be bank failures. I'm telling you, there are going to be a lot of bank failures. It's inevitable, because 1/3 of all commercial real estate is held by banks. And so if you've got over $250,000 at a bank, I would highly encourage you, DM me and I can give you a bank where you can spread your money. They spread it to multiple banks, and they don't put more than $250,000 in each bank, and it's high interest rate too, like 4 or 5%. If you DM me on social, I'll give you the connection to the bank that I deal with. Be careful, because there are going to be some bank failures, absolutely no question. But the other reason you want to connect with bankers are going to be taking back properties. And I will tell you, I interviewed people that bought in 2009, 10, 11. They got bank financing, from the bank that owned the property. Okay, so those connections are super important. I'd highly recommend you build those. You're going to want to build relationships with brokers. Brokers can make you wealthy, and they're much easier to build relationships now. I've gotten more contact from brokers in the last 3 months than I've gotten in the last 3 years because their stuff's not selling. There's a 75% year-over-year decline. Stuff's not selling, and that's why I'm saying these people. There's 1.6 trillion in debt coming due by the end of next year. They either have to sell, and that's not happening very much, or they have to refinance, which is very, very difficult. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming back, which is why there's opportunity, incredible opportunity. So you are in the right freaking place. Let me tell you. Okay, and then service providers, insurance agents, and property management, all these things you need to build connection with. Now, I go a lot deeper than this at my boot camp. I just can't do it here because this is about finding deals, but I wanted to give you some framework. So, like I said, utilizing brokers. One broker can make you freaking wealthy. Okay, if they like you and they send you deals, you can make a lot of money, period. And you only want to deal with multifamily brokers. And here's the thing, in this business, it's all about referrals. You know, you're going to ask a broker, who's the best property management company for this type of asset? You know, who's a good lender that you know? And if you're buying an asset that's over, say, 2-3 million, and you want a fantastic lender, let me know. I'll give you the one my Warriors use. Just DM me on that. But you want a good lender. But here's the thing: it's referral driven. So you ask a broker, who's a good property manager? When you interview property management companies, ask them who are good brokers or who are good other types of people you want to align with. Okay, it's all referrals. Okay, so how do you find brokers? Well, I would encourage you to find brokers that have several properties of the size and asset class that you're interested in. Okay, now when I say asset class, I don't know if I have a slide on this or not. I'm going to pretend I don't, but there's A, B, C, and D. A is brand new. D is the hood. Stay out of the hood. Ask me how I know, okay? I give t-shirts away at my boot camp that say hashtag ask me how I know, because a student gave me one once. I'm like, this is funny. And so we started printing them and giving them away because I made every freaking mistake you can possibly make. So I'm like, don't do that. Ask me how I know, right? So anyway, so you're going to find, LoopNet is a great place to find brokers, okay? It's the largest really the largest commercial real estate website. It's owned by CoStar. And so you can go in there for free and you can see who's got stuff listed that you might be interested in. But again, you got to pick your asset class. I would tell you right now, don't do D. Ask me how I know. I've had people killed in my properties. I mean, until we got them turned around, crack sales. I mean, just, you don't want to deal with it. So I would encourage you to focus on A or B properties if you can afford them and make them work, and if you can raise enough money for them. Even C, especially C minus properties, are something I would be a little bit afraid of right now. Why? Because that demographic is getting killed. I went to the grocery store. I'm blessed. I don't really have to pay attention to what I pay for stuff anymore. But I happened to notice that it was $150 for a bag of freaking, are you kidding me? I told the clerk there, this is like last week, I'm like, how do people afford this? She goes, I don't know. You know, gas, of course, but of course, the people that are renting the C minus class stuff, they're really struggling. So just be careful of that, because at some point that's going to impact rents, okay? In fact, let me show you another headline here. More than 20 million US households are behind on their utility bills. This is a headline I printed, okay? You know, I mean, guys, the soup is going to hit the fan. Don't get scared. Get excited. You're in the right place, okay? All right. I've got a script here. I'm not going to read this to you, but basically, I'm calling in regards to one of your listings. Love to get some more information about it. Why is it for sale? You know, this sounds like, something I might be interested in. Here's my email. I'd love you if you send me the link. If you get properties like this more often, please let me know. This is the criteria we look for. And again, I can't go into great detail about this, but you're going to play with this and just start. Now, here's the thing I'll tell you. If you're brand new and you don't know the verbiage yet, the nomenclature, I'd encourage you to call brokers where you're not interested and practice first, okay? Because they can tell a newbie a mile off. And again, I can't spend too much time on that right now. But here's the thing that I will tell you about brokers, okay? And that is, most people never follow up. A broker will send them a listing and they'll never do anything with it, right? And so you don't be that person. Don't be a black hole. If they send you a deal, make sure you respond. You tell them why it didn't work with as much specificity as possible. Okay. And again, if you come to one of my events, I teach you how to do that to sound more credible when you're talking to a broker. And I just can't do it here. There's not enough time. But you also want to refresh their memory when you call them back as to what you're looking for. When you tell them why it didn't work, listen, we're looking for we need a return of at least 8% cash on cash, and this thing comes in at 5 or 4. And I mean, if we paid X, we could get that return. I don't know if that's even worth mentioning, but let me mention that to you, Mr. Broker. But let me remind you, this is what we want. What we're looking for. Here's our investment criteria. Okay, these are the size property I'm looking for, asset class, area, all that. That's investment criteria. Okay, and also respect their time. Brokers are very, very busy. Don't take up their time, but you got to stay in front of them too. You either email them or call them every 6 to 8 weeks. Say, hey, you got anything new? What's going on? Build a relationship. These are lifelong relationships you're building, guys. Okay, and let me say this to you. This business is not a get-rich-quick business, okay? Anybody tells you can get rich quick in this business, you can make a lot of freaking money right out of the gate, yes, but I'm going to say with acquisition fees and so on and so forth. But this is a become super freaking wealthy over time business, okay? So just remember that. So you're building relationships for life, okay? So you put your decades, okay? So that's the approach you take. You're not trying to get the best deal and screw somebody out of the gate just to get a little better deal and save a couple of bucks, because this is a lifelong thing you're doing. By the way, it's a very small world, believe it or not. Even though there's 2+ million multifamily properties in this country, it's a pretty small world. Okay, so if you get a bad reputation, everybody knows about it pretty fast. So yeah, every few weeks you call them, you maintain the relationship. If there's any way you can set yourself apart, and that looks a lot of different ways. Some people wear funny hats, some people wear funny jackets. I got students that both do those things. I've got a student that has connected with somebody that sells sports memorabilia, so he'll send a signed baseball or football or basketball to a broker, take him to a game, whatever. Anything you can do to set yourself apart matters, okay? So that's super important, because the goal is to get off-market deals, right? The goal is to get deals that very few people know about, where you're only bidding against a couple of people, ideally, okay? So you're going to ask them to get on their list and have them send you deals. But again, the goal is to get off-market deals. Now I'm going to tell you something else here. Almost anybody that gets started in this business aligns with someone that's successful first, okay? They find somebody that's got a few hundred doors or 1,000 doors, and they say, hey, if I find a deal, can I work with you and bring it to you? Or if I can raise money, can I get involved in a deal? Everybody does that. That's why my warriors are so successful. There's dozens and dozens of what we call sponsors in there, people that have done big deals. And so, it's just an incredible environment. But, if you don't want to check that out, that's fine. But you need to get into an environment where there are a lot of people doing this. So you not only can talk shop and have people that support you and aren't afraid of your goals and dreams. Your peer group is super important. So find that, because it's critical in this business. And everybody starts that way. They find what's called a sponsor to help them take a deal down. And then they're able to use, when you're talking to a broker, you can use the we word. We own 300 doors, 500 doors, 1,000 doors in your market. And so, instant credibility when you align with somebody who's already done some deals. Everybody does it this way, guys, okay? So just keep that in mind. And by the way, there will be 1,000 of these people at my boot camp, okay? So just keep that in mind. So let me mention something to you I think is kind of important, and I like to talk about this. I'm going to talk about college, basically. So I invite you to consider, we go to school, we take tests, and we study all the time, right? And we take very little action. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because the people that teach us business in school don't actually have any results in business, right? And that's not what entrepreneurship is. And that's why most professors who teach business haven't actually ever conducted business. And that's part of the problem, in my opinion, with our education system. I won't go too far down this rabbit hole. Don't get me started. It's crazy, our education system. So the first part of the progression really is the system. So what's the system? The system is go to college, get a job, and then retire when you're 65, right? And there's nothing wrong with college, and I support people that want to go to college for technical things, right? But there's that statistic that 74% of the people that finish college don't ever use their degree. And then from there, I think there's another crazy statistic. It's like 65% of Americans have less than $5,000 in their bank accounts, and have an average of $20,000 in debt, right? College is just not producing the results we want in the world, right? And I respect people who are doctors and dentists and engineers. Those are technical things, or an accountant, or if you really love your job and college provided you with that, then great. I support you, and I support college, and you should too if your kids in your future is going to be in technical roles, right? So again, we know that college didn't prepare us for business, because most people that teach business in college have never really built a business. You guys hear what I'm saying? And so I've learned more from coaches and mentors in my life than any college. Now with college, they charge you what, 250, 300 grand, and then you're in for like 300,000 or 200,000 in debt for 30 years at 6%. It's the worst debt in the world because you can't bankrupt it. That system is broken. Okay. And that's the old way of thinking as well, guys. Okay. The new way of thinking is investing in yourself with mentors or workshops and boot camps, like I mentioned earlier. There's the old way of thinking. There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't work for what you want to achieve. You wouldn't be here. And now you're here at this workshop, like I say, because the old way isn't getting you where you want to be. Can we all agree on that? Okay. So do you see how there's nothing wrong with the old way? You can still live a very happy and fulfilling life. And that said, you're here because you want more. Yeah. So how do you achieve more? Well, what you have to understand is the difference between institutional education and education that's in the informational space or in the coaching space. And we're just not brought up to learn from boot camps or workshops because it's not part of the system. So it's not your fault. It's just something you're not used to doing. And we know you didn't grow up in a system where you've seen the benefits. Okay, so let me mention something else to you while I'm talking about this. Because you're going to be speaking with brokers, especially when you're new, I want to take a moment and I want to talk about acting as if, okay? So what do I mean by acting as if? It basically means you fake it until you make it. And like I mentioned to you, nobody starts out an expert or world class or successful in multifamily or anything for that matter. It takes hard work. It takes study. It takes discipline. And very often it requires you to act as if you're already successful, right? You fake it till you make it. Now, I do a version of this every morning myself. I visualize the things that I want as if I already have them with gratitude. And I teach my coaching students to do the same thing because it's so freaking powerful. And I also tell them to set up their own meetup groups, for example, or create a YouTube channel or start a Facebook group or even a podcast like I did, adding value to people even when they're not yet an expert in the business. Telling them to bring in experts to interview or researching what they need to know to be able to add value to others. And I've got scores of students that have done just that. I mean, we have the biggest multifamily meetup group, multiple locations in the world. But just to talk, award-winning podcasts in my students, and just to talk shop about this exciting business, or set up their own, like I say, YouTube channels, Facebook groups, and by virtue of the fact, if they're doing the interviewing, for example, or just heading up whatever vehicle they've chosen, they're perceived in a position of authority. In other words, they're acting as if, right? Now, everybody wants to be happy, right? That's what we all want. And, Dale Carnegie said, act as if you're already happy, and it's going to tend to make you that way. I'm just trying to turn up my volume here. I like this music. There we go. And so I would add, also act as if you're already successful, or act as if it's impossible to fail, right? Or act as if everything you want you've already got, or act as if you've already achieved your goals. And that's how you bring all that into your life. For example, nobody's born incredibly confident, but the most successful people exude confidence. And I'll tell you, when they first started, they acted as if. Now, if you're working a W-2 job and you take ownership in that position and act as if you're an owner or a manager and you behave that way, I'm going to tell you, it won't be long before you're noticed and your position increases. Now, you often see this acting as if dynamic with people's titles, or when they write a book, they proclaim themselves the world's greatest, or as an authority on a particular topic, which is just another way of acting as if. So like the good book says, as you say it, so shall it be. So you can start declaring yourself an incredible multifamily investor, an amazing parent, or frankly, whatever it is you hope to embody. And this causes you to focus on what it is that you want as if you already have it. This is how the wealthy people get wealthier and the poor get poorer, because where focus goes, energy flows. Okay, I talked to you about focus. You're a leader. What you focus on right now is critical. You got to stand guard at the door to your mind. Bring in the good stuff, because what you focus on gets larger and becomes your life, both positive or negative. Now, this business in multifamily real estate, like I told you, is a team sport, and you're going to need to influence different types of people to become a success in this business. For example, like I said, brokers and sellers and potential investors. And very often, you're going to have to act as if initially. I think it's also important, super important, for you to feel the emotion associated with whatever it is you're hoping to embody. Feel that success, feel that competency at a visceral level. And it's great, it's going to greatly enhance the speed at which you're truly living that way. When people ask me how I'm doing, I usually say I'm freaking fantastic or unbelievable. Because again, as you say it, so shall it be, right? So ask yourself, my friends, am I acting the way I need to act in the important areas of my life, right? My business, my relationships, my health. Am I acting as if? If you start walking that walk and talking that talk, I promise you at some point you're no longer going to be acting. So we have a lot more to cover today, but I want to take 2 minutes and just, if you'll humor me, and mention my boot camp, okay? And just give you a little more detail on it, okay? So go ahead and throw the slide up here. So it's September 15th through the 17th in Orlando. Again, you can come for $197 freaking dollars if you use the code Finding Deals. And it's not a big sales pitch. I talk about my coaching for like 30 minutes. The rest of the 3 days is full on training. I've got 3 billion in panelists coming on several panels each day. You know, it's 3 days. We dive deep on finding deals, much deeper even than I'm doing today. Raising all the money you need for your deals. You know, doing a full evaluation on underwriting and due diligence, financing your deals, syndicating your deals, property management, all the above. And if you know me, I'm going to spend some time on mindset. There's a reason my students own, we're pretty sure 170,000 units. So it's because they actually take action with what they learn, right? So there's also some awesome bonuses. They get the deal evaluator software, they get the document library, right? I mean, incredible bonuses. I mean, hell, that alone's worth thousands. So anyway, you go to Rod's Links. There's a bunch of free resources there as well, free books. And use the code Finding Deals to come for $197. I hope you come. And let me say this to you. If you come and you don't love it, I don't mean like it. I mean freaking love it. I'll give you your money back. And I don't say that lightly. So, all right, well, let's get back to it here. Thank you for allowing me to do that. All right, so let's talk about the online websites where you can find deals and get information. I told you about the ones where you can get information already. That's right, demographical. Remember city-data, bestplaces.net, Data USA, census.gov. But LoopNet is a great place to go, okay? And people say that's the place where deals go to die. Absolutely not true. But you want to look for what other people have missed. You know, could you increase income or decrease expenses? Now I'm going to tell you that once you decide on an area, you need to really learn what's going on there. You need to know what the rents are doing. You need to know who the employers are. I have my coaching students do an area presentation as part of their training to present the area to the whole group, because you're ultimately going to have to do that when you find a deal and you want to raise money. So, you know, are the expenses high? Typical expense ratio is 50%. If it's more than that, you want to dig deeper. You know, is the management overpriced? That's very common. You'll get management creep where the management rates go up and up. You know, are the rents at current market value? Of course, the rents have gone crazy the last couple of years. They're starting to flatline now. Don't be aggressive when you project rent increases right now. Don't do it. Because, you know, we're heading into a shitstorm, like I said, right? So what's the vacancy percentage in the area? If most of the properties there are 10% vacant, you find an asset that's 20 or 30% vacant, why? That's a clue, right? So it could be poor management. It could be a problem with the property, but you want to explore that, right? So again, those are the things you look at. You look at, can you increase income by doing a value add, by improving it or just bringing the rents to market? Maybe they haven't increased the rents because they didn't want to, you know, deal with people moving out when they increase rents. Or can you decrease expenses with LED lighting and water saving and so on, and better management fees, and put the vendor stuff out to bid again? Because again, vendors raise their prices. It's called vendor creep, where they raise their prices over year after year. You know, so you want to look at all this stuff and become good and just have fun with it again. But go to LoopNet and start playing with this and looking in the area that you're interested in. Okay. But I'll tell you, don't think that you can't find deals there. I remember we found a 24 unit near Tampa, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was at a 6 cap when a 6 cap was ridiculously low. Now a 6 cap's fantastic, but that's coming back to being low again. But you know, there was very little information listed on LoopNet. It was like, you know, so most people didn't even bother looking at it, is the point I'm making. At that time, it just didn't look very good. But we dug deeper. We found out the sellers were in their 90s. The rents were 150 below market. Expenses were high. They were being screwed by maintenance and landscaping and management and everything else. It was a huge opportunity that got missed by literally thousands of people because they didn't dig deeper. Remember I told you when you're willing to do what other people aren't, you'll be a success? There's an example of it. Okay. Other online websites, if you want to take a picture of this on your screen so you don't have to dig for it later, there's cityfeet.com, there's naiglobal.com, CIMLS, Marcus and Millichap, CBRE, Cushman, CBC Worldwide, there's Newmark, there's Grubb and Ellis, there's all these big brokerage houses that have websites that you should have links on or have alerts on that when deals pop up, you see about them, okay? So these are some online websites to look for deals other than LoopNet, like I just showed you. So again, what are you looking for? You're looking for low rents, abnormally low rents. So maybe you just bring the rents to market. You don't even have to bring them beyond what the market rent is there in the other competing properties. That's market. What are the competing properties renting for? Maybe you just have to bring them up. We're looking at asset right now in Tampa where that's the case right now. Or you look for an abnormally high or low expense ratio. Again, if it's like over 50%, you need to dig deeper. Maybe the seller is paying something that they shouldn't be paying. Maybe they're paying utilities and you can bill back utilities. That's very common. Okay. Or or they're paying too much in management fees, expenses. They're just not managing it well. 50% expense ratio is the average. Now, what do I mean by expense ratio? You got all the income on the property, and then you have the property related expenses. Doesn't include debt. Okay. So it's just the property related taxes, insurance, maintenance, so on and so forth. That's the expenses. And if it's more than 50%, you look at it. Now, if it's considerably less than 50%, somebody's probably BSing somebody, okay? Even on a brand new property, you're never gonna see much lower than about 40%, maybe 35 if it's super well run. So just remember that on the expense ratio. Maybe it's been marketed for a long time and the seller's like disgusted and it's stale and they want out, Or if you see a property that has very little information, get excited because everyone else gives up, okay? Again, doing what other people aren't willing to do. And I told you about, let's say the market's vacancy percentage compared to the subject property. If there's a big disparity there, the market's at 5% vacant, this property's 15% vacant. I would absolutely dig deeper. Could be incredible opportunity. And again, I talked about overpriced management. So these are all the things you're looking at when you look at a property, right? Let me know if you're still with me and you're getting value from this. Could you please just say yes if you're still getting value and you haven't fallen asleep while I get a drink? Please put yes in the chat. Thank you. Okay, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you. This keeps me going. Thank you, Jeffrey, Dale, Crystal, Irene, John, Inez, Chris, Carlos. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about property management companies. Now, I'm going to give you a resource. Please don't go look at it right now because you're going to miss what I'm saying. But if you go to rodslinks.com, in the free books, there is an incredible book that is, give me a second and I'll pull it up here and show it to you. Sorry, I thought I had it right ready here and I don't. There, is this it? I think this is it. No, that's not it. Well, you know what? I'm not going to sit and hunt for it, but it's how to hire a third-party property management company and the questions you should ask. Don't go look at it now. Just write it down. Make yourself a note to go look at it later. But I want to talk about bringing on a property management company right now. By the way, that book is extraordinary. It's got every question you could possibly ever ask. I don't think there's a better book out there on the topic. I don't say that lightly. And it's free. It's at Rod's Links. Okay. So this is super important. Now that's the beautiful thing about this business is you can hire people to run these assets for you, property management companies. Now, when you hire a property management company, is your work done? No. Okay. You're going to asset manage, right? You got to manage that asset. That's why you take in 2% asset management fee if that's what you decide to charge. But this is very important. When you've got a relationship with a property management company, who's going to know better if an owner is going to sell than the property management company? Now, let me ask you this. If they know that the owner is going to sell, who do they want to buy that asset? Somebody that they know, right? So if you've got relationships with property management companies, they're going to want you to buy that thing so they can stay in management. Does that make sense? They are an incredible source for deals. They know the property better than anybody. They know the problem tenants. They know the most common maintenance problems. They know the best contractors in that area. And they know when an owner wants to sell. Hello. Okay. So, and they know they know exactly what's going on with the property. They know the detail. And so they're going to know if somebody wants to sell now, they want to sell in 6 months. And they're going to be able to help you determine what the expenses and the income should be and so on and so forth, because they're experts at it. Whenever we go into a market that we're not intimately familiar with, we learn more from interviewing a property management company than anybody else we do. But again, they will give you deals. I know people that have gotten thousands of units. I'm not exaggerating, thousands from property management company connections. Okay. So this is a good one. Very important. Auctions. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you in what's coming in this economy, we're going to start seeing some auctions, and there's going to be a lot of it. They're already started, actually. And so it is really important that you get up to speed on auctions. Now, I want to give you some really important caveats, okay? But first of all, they're always listed significantly less than what they're going to sell for. Why? Because they want to get you excited, right? Okay, so be aware of that. And it's very often below replacement value, and it's to entice you to bid, okay? Now, if you bid on a property at an auction and you're the successful bidder, you've put up a deposit for that privilege, okay? And if you back out, you lose a lot of money, right? So I want to give you some caveats, okay? First of all, they are sold as is, and there are nefarious sellers that may hide defects because they know you're not going to do a significant due diligence. Let me give you an example. If you get a property from a broker and you're gonna typically write a contract that allows you to have a due diligence period. And for a while there, the last couple of years, we didn't have those. You had to go right to your money being non-refundable, or hard, they call it. But now it's back to normal again, and you can have a due diligence period. So you're able to check everything out, scope the sewer lines, check the foundation, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, roofs, all that stuff. Well, if you're buying a property at auction, your due diligence is going to be cursory, because at best, because you're doing the due diligence on a property you're not even sure you're going to buy, right? And that's why it's critical that you really know, you either have me or someone like me looking over your shoulder if you're going to buy an auction property. Super important, because there's no contingencies. Now, the other thing is you got to have all the money lined up. Very often these auctions are cash, so you need to raise the money or something like that. But I'm going to tell you, the other thing I'll tell you about auctions, I don't know if there's another slide on this. Yes, there is. So here's the biggest auction houses. You should get registered. Take a picture of this screen as well. You should, let me zoom in a little bit so they can see it, please. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, let's do a little bit more of that, going back and forth on these that are, unless you can really see them well. You can see them well? Okay, thanks. Okay, so here's these are the big auction houses. You should get on all of them, okay? And get on their lists. Don't do it now. You're going to miss stuff, but get on all their lists and have them start sending you deals. Why? Because you're going to learn so much. See, when you get a deal from a broker, typically all you're going to get is their pro forma, which is what they think the property will do, which is toilet paper, okay? But if you register on an auction deal and you get an auction deal, they give you everything they have, because they know you have to make a decision based on what you see. So you'll see stuff that'll help you learn this business faster. Things like environmental reports, appraisals, phase one, that's environmental reports, other surveys, things to help you learn this business, okay? But again, don't attempt to take down an auction unless you've got somebody who knows what they're doing looking over your shoulder, okay? Now, there's two types of auctions. There's a reserve auction where the seller has a reserve and that has to be met before they have to sell. And then there's the absolute auction. Absolute auction, it'll sell for whatever the highest bid is, even if it's a penny. It's the law, okay? In an absolute auction, the highest bidder always wins. And in a reserve auction, of course, the seller can say, no, I can't even pay off my debt with that bid or whatever. Okay, so that's a reserve auction. Okay, okay. Now let's talk about the most well-known, and I'm going to give you some ninja tricks here, the most well-known way to go direct to seller. Okay, now we talked about going to brokers, right, to find deals. This is going direct to seller. And direct mail is the absolute best way. It's the most well-known, it's the most effective, and it works, okay? It's the best way to get what we call mom and pops, okay? And I will tell you, it works better in the under 50 unit range, okay? So like by the way, commercial real estate, commercial multifamily is 5 units or higher. So I'm gonna say 5 units to 50. We're not gonna talk about duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes for purpose of this. Are they great? Sure. A lot of people start there. I saw a lot of you guys own 2, 3, 4, 5 units. And so, okay, hold on. Can you go to the screen with the largest listings? Okay, I'm gonna go back because I see a question here. and let you take a picture of that screen. Sorry, guys. I guess I did it a little too fast. I just saw the chat. Okay, there you go. Okay, take a picture. Can you zoom, put it on there? Okay, take a picture of that. And then I'm going to go to the auction site. Oops, let me get that out of there. Now go to the auction one so you can take a picture of that. There's all the big auction houses, okay? These are the biggest, okay? All right, bring it back to me. Thanks. All right. I went a little fast. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had too much coffee. Forgive me. So just throw the questions on the chat. And let me know if I missed something, if you would. Okay, thanks. All right. So auctions, fantastic. You should learn them because I think a lot of stuff's going up for auction. Okay. All right. Where was I? Okay. Direct mail. Here's the thing. If you decide that you're definitely going to buy in a market, okay? You love this area. Maybe you live there. Maybe you bought another property there. You're definitely going to go there. I'd highly encourage you to go direct to seller with some mail. Now, I'm going to give you some caveats, okay? I told you don't go over 50 units, too much. In fact, it might even be a little high there. It might be better 30, 40 max. But here's the thing. You're not going to mail everybody that owns one of those. I'm going to encourage you to mail people that have owned at least 20 years. Or if the list is too small, go 10 years. I'm going to tell you, even in a huge metropolitan statistical area, MSA, where it was what we call it, like Tampa or Denver or Los Angeles or Phoenix, even there, you go 20 years, it's going to be a few hundred at most. It's not going to be thousands if they've owned 20 years. I highly encourage you to do that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But it is the best way to get mom and pops, for sure. But there are some tricks, okay? And I'm going to tell you some tricks if you're going to do direct mail. But again, I would get people that have owned a good bit. And if you know what, let me tell you why now, because I don't think I get into that. That's more stuff I teach at the boot camp. But let me tell you why you want people that have owned a good bit. Why? Because if they've owned for 20 plus years, all their tax benefits have run out. They're fully depreciated, okay? That's number one. Typically, they're elderly. And if they're elderly, they're not going to take that money from that investment and put it into another high-risk investment. And they're going to pay Uncle Sam 65, 70 cents on the dollar when they sell. So if you mail to these people and you have one of them call, you can have a conversation like this. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm going to buy your property or make you an offer for $1 million, just round numbers. And you want to do this, just like I'm saying here. You want to work it out just like I'm saying here. Now if I get financing and you get cashed out, you're only going to get to keep 650, 700,000 because Uncle Sam's going to take their chunk, right? Now, if you work with me, I'll give you enough of a down payment so you know I'm serious, and I'll pay you, 5, 6, 7, 8% interest, whatever makes sense. The numbers make sense, and you're only going to pay taxes on the amount you get from me every year. So your payment from me is 3 times what you'll get if you put it in the bank. See, a lot of them will put it in the bank, and although the rates are up now, they're going to come back down. And you can literally double or triple what they'd get in a bank. And typically they like cash flow. So you want to make sure you have that conversation around seller financing, which is why I encourage you to go to the smaller properties and to the people that have owned a good bit, okay, good long time. Okay. Now you want to find them when they're motivated. And what's motivation? Maybe they passed and it's their heirs and the kids want nothing to do with real estate. They just want the cash. And that's another thing. If I don't talk about probate attorneys is another great source of leads. Okay, maybe there's management problems. They're tired. There's divorce, retirement. They're out of state owner. That's like a stepchild. I've still got 20 properties in Memphis I'd love to get rid of. Maybe they're in trouble. There's going to be a lot of that coming up. Or they're in poor health. But you want to get them when they're motivated. So here's the thing. If you do mailing, it's not going to be a once and done thing. You're going to do it probably every 3 months. But again, if it's just a few hundred, it's not a big deal. Okay, so that's why you want to have a honed list. Very important. And so you can buy your list. If you want to take a picture, zoom in on this, please. You can take, if you want to buy your list, you can. I'm going to tell you, I think that you can do better. It's still on me. Oh, so I thought I meant put it on that is what I meant. Sorry. There you go. Take a picture of that. These are reputable list brokers. Okay, so take a picture of that. Let me give you a second. These are reputable. Okay, you can put it back on my smiling face. Anyway, these are reputable list brokers. Okay, and I listen. There are lots of nefarious list brokers. I mean, it is a dog eat dog, wild wild west in list brokers. Highly recommend you use one of these if you're going to buy a list. Now, I would encourage you not to buy a list I'd encourage you to build your own. It should say build, not buy. Pretend that says build. Anyway, build your own list. You go to the county assessor's website. Now, if you want to know where that is, if you go to NETR online, that is, you can click on your state and you can find your county assessor's website at NETR online. Don't do it now. Write it down, NETR online, and it'll give you a list of every county's website. So netronline.com is how you get the county website to build your own list. It's not that hard. You can do searches. You can download the names and addresses and get a lot of information, honestly. Sometimes you have to go down there. Sometimes you pay a couple of bucks, but it's the most accurate list you're going to get as well. Even the list brokers, you know, they don't update it all the time. So you're going to get the most accurate list. And this is what we did, okay? Now, here's the thing. Now listen to me for a second. Most commercial real estate assets are held in entities. They're held in partnerships or LLCs, mostly LLCs now. And if you mail to the registered agent of an LLC, where do you think that's going to end up? In the freaking trash. And by the way, I'll come to some questions here in just a second. We'll take a minute. I'll sit down and I'll answer some questions because I see a bunch of them popping up here. But let me finish this direct mail thing first, okay? So what you want to do if you're going to mail is you want to get around, go ahead and throw the slide up. You want to get around the entity, okay? And so what you do is you go to the Secretary of State's website. You can look up their articles of organization and you find out the names of the managing members, the owners, and you mail them at their home, okay? And I'm going to tell you that alone is a huge step in the right direction, okay, for your results in mail. Here's the thing. When you mail, the average open rate's 1%, okay? Actually, I think it's 0.5%. I think it's 0.5%. It's 0.5 or 1%. If you get 2%, you're freaking doing backflips. Now, if you do some of the things that I'm sharing with you here, when we did it, I'm not exaggerating at all, embellishing at all. We got a 6 to 9% response rate. 6 to 9 responses for every 100 letters that we sent. Not bullshitting, that's real, okay? But I'm gonna give you some ninja tricks here like I just did. This is one of them. Go through and break down the LLC and mail them at their homes. So that's one of them. Here's some more. Type the letter. Make sure that the property address is in the first paragraph. Make sure the owner's name and address is on the top. Property address, first paragraph. Try to make it one page. No, try. Make it one page. If you can, put a picture of you and your spouse or your family on there. Massively increases response, okay? So that, and then I would tell you, do I have it on here? Yes. And you could put some headlines on there. I can save you thousands in taxes. I just told you how you can save them thousands in taxes by doing seller financing, right? Save them the real estate commission for sure, because you're buying it directly. Say you could say, this is a ninja trick. You could say you need to purchase a property in 30 days. Why is that a ninja trick? Because many of these sellers are going to know what a 1031 exchange is, a tax deferred exchange. And they know that if someone has a timeline, it's typically because they need to identify and close on a property within that timeline. So they're going to think they have an edge on you. So it's a real sneaky way to let them think they have an edge on you. Or you could just say you really love whatever the town is. You want to buy there and live there, whatever. But these are some headlines you can put in the letter that'll enhance your response rate. Here's the thing. You always handwrite the envelopes, okay? And you can find stay-at-home moms, veterans, or even companies that will handwrite your envelopes and stuff them for you. But it's critical that you handwrite them, and it's critical you put stamps on them. You don't use the little machine that freaking stamps them. Put stamps on them, okay? I know it's a pain, but that stuff gets opened, okay? You can hire people from Craigslist, and again, there's some companies that do it. Click to Mail, ITI Direct Mail, and LOB. So those companies do it. You're gonna mail multiple times. The first time, you mail a business envelope. The second time, mail an invitation color envelope. Those always get opened, right? You could do a postcard where everything's right there on the postcard. You gotta mail it every 3 months. We mail ours every 3 months, super important. We did this and it was incredibly effective. So if you're mailing to retirees, what was their primary mode of communication growing up? It was mail, right? So we put a self-addressed stamped postcard. We stamp it too, so it's double the mailing cost, but stay with me here. And it says, you know, this is the price I'm asking for my property. This is how many units it has. and name and address, and they can just send the card back to you. I can't tell you how effective that was, okay? So you're mailing them an envelope, but it's got a card where they can just fill it out and send it back to you. Just drop it, it's stamped and everything, okay? Ninja trick. So the next thing, anyway, let me answer some questions. So you want to zoom in on me here. Frank, you want to ask your question about high interest rate, buddy? Is he unmuted? Go ahead, Frank. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, Rod, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You bet.
I'm just curious that, because the current interest is very high, does it still make sense to fund and buy the properties because the high interest eat out cash flow?
Sure. Well, here's the thing. The interest rate the prices have to come down to justify that. Okay. And right now we're still at a point where sellers haven't really massively made price adjustments. It's coming. Right now, it's still a lot of the sellers that want to sell. The ones that need to sell, I promise you, are coming. So those prices are going to have to come down to justify those higher interest rates. Let me tell you something. When I started in this business in 2008 and 9, I'm sorry, not 2008, 9, 1978. I was going to tell you about the crash. In 1978, the interest rates were 18%. Okay, just to give you some context, they were 18%. And I remember when they dropped to 7%, we were doing backflips. We were 7 and 8%. We're like blown away. So, just to give you some perspective on what happens with interest rates. But Frank, yes, there will be deals that the interest rate makes sense. I will tell you, we bought an asset for 3.2% interest last year. This year we bought one for 5.4%, screaming deal. So now the interest rates are even a little higher than that. But so NETR Online, Dwayne, is the website you can use to find the public assessor's websites, so you can do your own downloads, so you can do direct mail, you can do your own searching. So that's how you get it easier. Frank, your question about finding investors and stuff like that, that's a whole nother, we go into that deep at the boot camp. That's a whole big topic. I probably will do a masterclass on that at some point. Again, I've done them in the past, but just not enough time here today. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Christine. Not a question, just want to say thank you. Okay, good. Well, what you do, if Fiani, when you go to the county assessor's website, is it allows you to search by property type, number of units, like 5 to 20 units, 5 to 30 units, how long they've owned it. You can put in search criteria, and then you can pull your lists, right? Okay. Okay, that looks like that's about it. What's a good cap rate you should be looking for? I don't put as much weight on cap rate as I do on the returns that a property will generate. See, there's cash on cash return, there's internal rate of return. And without going too far down the rabbit hole, because I want to get back to finding deals, the cash on cash return is how much money you make from your out-of-pocket money or your investor's out-of-pocket money every year. Okay, so if your investor, let's say you invested $100,000, you made 10 grand back, that's a 10%, every year, that's a 10% cash on cash return. Now the internal rate of, and our minimum cash on cash is about 9 or 10%. That's really what we like to see. Now the internal rate of return, and I'm doing this really fast, obviously go much deeper at the boot camp on this, but the internal rate of return is the total return the property generates over the period of time that you're projecting. Very often that's 5 years. And so, and that includes principal reduction, that includes the cash flow, that includes, of course, what you sell it for and all of that. So the appreciation, all that stuff. So that's the internal rate of return. Okay, let's talk about wholesaling for a minute. Now, if you go direct to seller, and are you good? Okay, sorry. If you go direct to seller and you're mailing, or you can even cold call. I've got successful students that actually pick up the phone and cold call. I got a student that pulled a list of the people that had owned 20 plus years in his little town, and he'd been driving by this 8-plex every day, piece of crap 8-plex that needed a ton of work. Finally, he heard me, he was one of my warriors, heard me in his ear saying, massive freaking action, go make it happen. He knocked on the door, found out who the owner was 85-year-old owner, went to his house and said, hey, do you own that property over there? Yes. I'm not interested in renting. Have you ever thought about selling? Guy invited him, he bought it, okay? He mailed the other people that had owned that long, and didn't mail them, I'm sorry, he went and knocked on their doors, and he has like at least 3 more that he bought that way, 6 to 8 plexes. Again, doing what other people aren't willing to do. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute after this section on wholesaling. But when you firm up an area and you know you're going to buy there and you're going to go direct to seller, there are going to be deals you don't want to do or deals you can't do, and you can make money on them. You know, you've heard about wholesaling, I'm sure, in the single family space, you know, make 5, 10 grand, you know, maybe 20. I did it, and I needed Matt remind me. I want to ask my warriors how many have made big money wholesaling. I did this. I asked them about 2 years ago how many had made over 100,000 wholesaling. 12 of them had made over 100,000 wholesaling one property. 2 made over $1 million. Okay, you can make a lot of money wholesaling multifamily. Hardly anybody wholesales multifamily. They wholesale single family. But again, so what you do is you find the buyers that are buying there, and there are ways you can do that: searching public records or going to your local meetup groups and finding out who's cash buyers and who's buying stuff, and you make connections with them. Because I'm going to tell you, wholesaling can be very, very effective. And but anyway, I've still got a ton of stuff to cover. Don't leave. I want to take 2 seconds, if you'll humor me, and just mention my Warrior program. Okay, so if you want to pay for speed, if you don't want to wait for my boot camp, my Warrior program is extraordinary. There's about, I don't know, 1,200 active warriors across the country. We've got every demographic, every area covered. And like I said, they own upwards of 170,000 units. If you want to apply, there's an application. It's not a big deal, but we look you over, you look us over. Just if you've got high ego, don't apply. If you've got a big ego, because part of my job now is to protect the program as much as it is to continue it. And so, you know, if you know who you are, if you got a big ego, don't apply. But if you don't, and you're coachable and you want to build this thing and you want to move quicker, text the word crush to 72345, write that down, and just talk to my team. And even if it's not a fit, because we're looking you over, you're looking us over, even if it's not a fit, you'll leave that call. It's really 2 calls. You'll leave those calls better than when you got on them, I promise you. So if you're interested, do that and talk to my team. They'd love to talk to you. So anyway, thank you for letting me do that. But let me share something else with you now. So this is a picture of my stepdad. I lost him a couple years ago. He lived to 90. Beautiful, beautiful human being. And you know, this is actually 50 years ago when the first DC-10 landed in Denver, Colorado. This Stapleton Airfield. This was Stapleton before DIC, and before Denver International Airport. Now, my dad worked for Continental Airlines for 36 years. And when I tell you, and I'm not exaggerating, he used to make us kids put our hands over our hearts, because you could always tell a Continental plane because they had the gold tails. They used to call them the proud bird with the brass ass. So their marketing didn't say that. They said the golden tail, but everybody embellished it. But anyway, he literally made us kids put our hands over our hearts when one of them went by. I mean, he literally loved that company, and he was a wonderful man. He came into my life, you know, way too late and left much too early. Now, the reason I bring this up is he worked for Continental Airlines for 36 years, okay? Loved the company. And he got laid off, okay? He thought he had job security. Here's the thing I want to share with you. The only job security that you have is between your ears, okay? You know, it's your knowledge. It's your ability to take action. And that's what determines your success. Knowledge isn't the only key. If it was just knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there, right? It's the do, and it's the keep doing. It's the getting uncomfortable for a while. Your amazing life, that incredible, magnificent life of your dreams, is just on the other side of comfort, okay? So remember that. Remember my dad. I will tell you something else. You know, I remember he used to tell me, and I love him. I love this guy, and I miss him terribly. I've got a bunch of stuff downstairs that he gave me, and this is in my studio here. But anyway, I digress. But he used to tell me, you know, out of his own paradigm of the world, you need to go get a real job. When I was doing real estate, first couple of years, when I told you 8 grand, 10 grand was a joke. But he said, you need to go get a real job like I have. I'm going to have a pension. I'm going to retire. You know how much my mom got from his pension? And I lost my mom last year, but she got $697 a month. Okay. So guys, again, set your own course, make your own rules, go kick butt and make this happen for yourselves. This is what I want for you. Okay. All right, let's get back to it. I'm going to just have a drink of coffee. Bear with me here. Must be fading a little bit. Oh, wow. Well, we probably will be done in a couple hours. Okay, hang on. Let me just look here. Is anything else? Are cap rates different in different markets? Yes. Let me tell you, cap rates are driven by risk, okay? And they are absolutely different in different markets. They're different in different asset classes. You know, of course, office cap rates are horrible right now because people don't want to work at offices anymore, right? But you know, you've got self-storage, you've got mobile home parks, you've got retail. Retail's hurting too. I'm going to tell you. I'm reading a lot about that. Of course, multifamily, industrial, flex space, where you've got a little office with a warehouse. So all of those have different cap rates, okay? And I dig deep on this at the boot camp. I'm not keep trying to sell the freaking boot camp, but guys, let me just say this. If you can come, for God's sakes, come, okay? It's 3 days for $200. It is truly a no-brainer, okay? All right, now, remember I said, the secret to this or any business is being willing to do what other people won't. Let me give you an example of this. When I, between year 2 and year 3, when I told you I went from 10 grand to 100 grand, you know what I did? I started knocking on doors of people that were in foreclosure. If somebody was in foreclosure, I'd run to their house that night, every night, and I'd knock on the door. Hey, I saw you having some trouble with countrywide funding. And I help people when they're in foreclosure. And I did. And I basically bought about 500 houses that way, guys, doing what other people aren't willing to do. And I'm going to tell you, those first couple of weeks were uncomfortable. Again, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of discomfort you can stand. Okay? So remember that. So here's another thing that other people aren't willing to do. Drive for dollars. People drive for dollars for single family. They don't do it for multifamily. Makes no sense to me. You know, when you're driving around, look for, you know, crappy cars that have been sitting a long time, boarded up windows, you know, horrible landscaping, dirty signs, high grass, all that stuff. That's a tired owner, and that's a pissed off neighborhood. And you can absolutely find deals that way. I can tell you how often I know people that have found deals driving for dollars. Cold calling, and you know, especially after sending a letter. And I'm going to tell you, there's a script in the document library. You got to buy the boot camp ticket to get the document library, but I'll just tell you what the script is, okay? Hey, you could have a retiree do, you could have somebody, a stay-at-home mom do this. You could have a vet make these calls for you, okay? And you could pay them a pittance and then a fee, you know, like a spiff if they actually get an appointment for you. Hey, my boss needs to buy a property, and I know this is coming out of left field. My boss needs to buy a property like in the next 30 days, and he saw your property, really liked it on, you know, Worthwhile Avenue. Have you ever thought about selling it? And if not, please don't be offended. But if you have, I'd love to set up a call with you and my boss. It's that easy. You could pay people to do that. It doesn't cost, have a VA do it. I remember I used VAs when I was going to buy mobile home parks. So let me digress for 1 second. I was going to buy mobile home parks, and I had 8 virtual assistants in the Philippines working for me. Okay, 8. 6 of them, I was paying $1.93 an hour each. I had 6 people working for under $12 an hour, and I wasn't cheating them or taking advantage of them. They were thrilled to get it. The other 2 spoke English as well as anybody that lives in the country. Okay, and so you can find virtual assistants to do this stuff. How many do we have now? 3, 4, 5? 4 virtual assistants right now that work for me. They're fantastic. So that's, you know, there's a little trick there. You can have virtual assistants help you with stuff like breaking down those entities. They can do that as well. But they can actually, find Spanish speaking virtual assistants. They can actually make phone calls for you. Okay, so let me write this down. It's not in your script anywhere in your notes, but if you're interested in a VA, it's remote.co. The reason I like that one more than the Philippines, in the Philippines, you got to get up early or stay up late to talk to them because they're on a completely different clock. They're exactly 12 hours late. But remote.co is primarily Latin America. They're on our clock, and they'll work for cents on the dollar, guys. And so, anyway, I digress. But again, it's doing what other people aren't willing to do, cold calling. And I've got students that made a lot of money flipping houses, and they brought that knowledge base, you know, the mailings that they used to do and the cold callings that they used to do to multifamily, and they are freaking killing it. Okay, so again, all right. Well, these are some examples. Way back when I first started my podcast 6-7 years ago, I interviewed these guys. They had just bought a 50 unit here's what they did. They called for rent ads on Craigslist, okay? Doing what other people aren't willing to do. And and said, hey, I'm not interested in renting. Have you ever thought of selling? They just closed on a 50 unit when I interviewed them. They had a 48 unit under contract, and I might have the numbers reversed, but it was a 50 and a 48, I'm pretty sure. But they found it by driving for dollars, and then they found the owner by going on Facebook. They found the owner's daughter, and they, again, doing what other people want. They found the owner and they bought that. They had that 48 unit under contract. This is probably super dated. I would guess these guys probably have 3,000 doors or more now. This Jacob and Sterling, super good kids. Anyway, so doing what other people aren't willing to do, right? Other ways to find deals. Let me ask you this. If you're a crusty old fart, you're 85 years old, you're a man, you don't like those fast talking brokers, you know, you're going to sell that 8 unit or 10 unit or 20 unit that you built 30 years ago or bought 30 years ago. You're going to sell it yourself. You don't need those fast talking brokers. Where are you going to advertise it? You can't even spell internet. It's going to go in a freaking newspaper and nobody looks there anymore. Okay. I'm going to tell you, we found a 19 unit in the Tampa Tribune, huge circulation, huge, that only 2 people had called, and it was a screaming deal. This was years ago, but again, that's where mom and pops will sell. You'll find smaller deals, but nobody looks in the newspaper anymore. So by God, when you pick a market, you better put an alert in that area to let you know when there's deals there, right? Okay, that's a ninja trick. A Craigslist. This is really dated. He got a 36 unit for $1 million. It's about 5 years ago when I first started teaching. Okay. But Craigslist, you can find deals there. Don't underestimate some of these sites. Again, nobody looks there for deals, and there are deals there. Okay. You can also do a lot of other things on Craigslist. I found partners on Craigslist. I advertise for partners. Investors, that is, and you can certainly advertise that you're interested in buying a multifamily. Just advertise you're looking for deals. It's super cheap. So don't discount that. Again, doing what other people aren't willing to do. We will very often, when we've got an asset under contract, we'll put an ad in Craigslist with interior pictures of the unit, even when it's under contract. We're in due diligence. We haven't even closed on it yet. And we'll put the rents in that we think we can get it to and see if the phone rings. And if the phone doesn't ring on the rents that we want, that's what we call a clue, right? So, that's another tool you can use Craigslist for. Okay, this is a super ninja trick, okay? In whatever market you buy in, see, here's the thing. Let me give you a scenario. If you're just a consumer and you buy a house from a realtor, right? You buy a house from a realtor, a residential realtor, and then you decide to buy a 10 unit, or let's say you already own a 10 unit and you buy a house from a realtor. When you go to sell that 10 unit, you're going to go to that residential real estate or broker to list the 10 unit or 20 unit or even multi-million-dollar properties sometimes. And they haven't got a freaking clue what to do with it. And so you want to build a relationship with an agent or a broker that in the market you want to buy in and tell them, listen, I want you to put an alert on your MLS or check your MLS regularly for any multifamily that pops up. And if you tell me right away, if it's, I'll let you write the contract. I may even bonus you. And guys, I can tell you, my good friend Kevin Bupp, who buys mobile home parks, I did a keynote at one of his training events. He doesn't do them anymore. But we took a bus tour to one of his mobile home parks that he paid $2 million for that he found this way. Okay. This is a huge ninja trick. Okay. So, you let them know, what you're looking for and so on and so forth, and let them to tell you if they see one show up on the MLS to let you know right away. You guys can jump because nobody's looking there for them. Okay, you may be the only one that bids on it. Okay, super important. Now I'll give you actually it's kind of a sidebar example. My brother bought this farm up in Blue Ridge Mountains, Georgia. Okay, beautiful farm, 11 acres. Stole it because the person listed in the wrong place on the MLS. Nobody knew it was there, and he bought it and stole it. I mean, screaming freaking deal. So this is a really important trick. Okay. Okay, code violations. Very often you can get a list of properties, and you may have to write them down yourself at the county courthouse or the county or city, whoever regulates code violations. Sometimes the building department, sometimes the zoning department. And if you can find properties where the owner is getting hassled by codes because a tenant called because the owner is just tired and was letting water run or whatever, or there are nefarious tenants that will use that to avoid paying rent as well. And that's not a happy owner. Okay. That is an owner that's just disgusted. And again, what are we looking for when we try to find deals? We're looking for motivation. Yes. Okay. So that's a motivated freaking owner. So I would encourage you, if it's possible, again, doing what other people aren't willing to do, go down to the county or the city, see where they handle code violations, see if you can access because typically it's public information. You may have to do a little searching. You may have to, spend a little time there to find them. Maybe you can even download them. Who knows? But if you can mail them or contact them or even cold call them, don't tell them about the fact they're getting hassled, but say, hey, I saw you've got that place and I need to buy a place. Have you ever thought of selling? Catch them when they're motivated. And by the way, I forgot to say this on mailers. I can tell you, we bought properties where we had mailed them 2 years before and they kept the card or they kept the information and called us. So it's very common. Okay. You got to catch them when they're motivated. And they hold on to those things. So again, driving for dollars, you can see this stuff as well. But if you can get them at the courthouse, you can get a whole list of them instead of doing, trying to drive an area to find them. Okay. Evictions. If you're a little sadistic and you ever want to go to the eviction court and sit in the back of the room and watch the glee that shows up on the judge's face when an owner comes up and they did their paperwork wrong and he tells them to start all over again, okay? It's painful to watch. But if you can get lists of evictions and reach out to those owners, again, motivation, they're pissed, they're not happy, they're getting rid of tenants, okay? They're dealing with a bunch of crap they don't want to deal with. Again, motivation. So if you can get a list of evictions, that can be a very powerful way to find deals as well. I did have it on here, probate attorneys. Like I said, very often, kids that want nothing to do with real estate. My daughter, it kills me. She wants nothing to do with it. I love her dearly, but she don't care about real estate. She wants to do marketing. Okay, she's good at it, but that's, so when somebody passes, the kids may just want the cash. And so, if you call a probate attorney and say, hey, you don't know me, but I'm a problem solver. And if you ever get an owner that's selling, that's got a property that a property goes into probate and you need to sell it, let me know. And I would tell them, I wouldn't even just specify multifamily because you get some screaming deals on other asset classes too. And with a probate attorney, I wouldn't limit it to multifamily. I would just say, hey, if you ever get a piece of real estate that you've got to move, keep my number, put it in your Rolodex, put it in your list, and just call me when you get it, and I could possibly solve your problem for you. Super important. Okay. If you guys have okay, hold on. Let me answer a couple questions. What did you put the return envelope in addition to the stamp? It was a card, Charlie. So we put a card in the envelope that had the return address to us. It was stamped already, and on the back of the card, they just filled out a little information. Here's the property address. This is what we're asking. Sometimes they'll say, make us an offer, whatever. But this is how many units it is, and they just put the card in the mail and send it to you, and with their phone number and stuff, and then you call them. Hope that helped, Chris. Unmute Max R. Max, I want you to ask your question, buddy. It's a really good question.
Yes, yeah. So what I asked was, I'm curious, Rod, with the changing conditions in the Sun Belt. I know there was a craze to invest down there for the last few years. I've been reading that the Midwest is improving greatly, and a lot of investors are looking to buy out West now. So I'm curious.
But ask why. Ask why.
Well, insurance, from what I understand,
right.
rising taxes because of property value. So I'm just curious if that affected your buy box now.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question, brother. And it's a really good question. I mean, it's not, it relates to finding deals. Yeah, I will tell you, I live in a compound here in Florida. I just settled with my insurance company for Hurricane Ian for $800,000 plus, okay? So that's the reason the insurance went up. No, I'm kidding. But the whole region here got destroyed. And so insurance company rates have gone through the freaking roof. We had a beautiful asset that we were looking at in Louisiana. Highest income area in Louisiana, A+ asset, beautiful. And the deal fell apart because the seller was paying $500 a unit per year. They were quoting us $3,000 a unit per year. I mean, it's insane. Right now, I don't think you can get a property in Florida for less than $1,500 per unit per year. So again, this is another thing that's impacting pricing. And taxes, of course, have gone up as well. Texas is getting hammered. I've got several assets in Dallas. I've got assets in Houston, San Antonio, and insurance is going through the freaking roof there. So pay attention to that when you're looking at a property. And yes, in answer to your question, Max, we have diverted our focus to Ohio, to Tennessee, Alabama, because those are out of those high insurance zones just temporarily. Now, but let me say this to you. If you can find a deal in one of these, not just Sunbelt state, well, you say Sunbelt, I'm saying Florida, Louisiana, Texas, these states that are getting killed in insurance, if you can find a deal that makes sense financially, I promise you at some point that insurance will settle out. And you could really have a screaming deal when that happens. But we are targeting, my whole team is targeting elsewhere now because of this ridiculous insurance. Great question, buddy. Okay. Yes, Cash. Have I seen an uptick in assumable loans to make a deal pencil? Yes. In fact, we're looking at one right now in Tampa at 3.2%. See, that's another thing, because the rates have gone up. People that have lower interest rates that still have a runway on them. This one's got like 7 or 8 years left. I'm sorry, that's an exaggeration. It's got 4 years left, but it's 3.2% interest. So yeah, you're gonna raise more money to make that deal happen. But yes, okay. Howard Scarrott, Scarrott. Is this helpful? Let me know if this Q&A is helpful. If you guys are getting value, if I should go back to the thing. If it's helpful, please say yes in the chat for me. If you like the Q&A piece of this.
Hey Rod, I'm here if you can hear me.
Okay, Howard, yes I can. Give me your forced to sell question.
Question is, because we hear a lot about the potential of people, their notes are coming due.
Oh yeah.
Soon, and that they're going to have to refi and they're going to have problems with that. If that's the case, how can we make it a purchase make sense, because we're looking at the same interest rates that they're going to have.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. But we're not looking at the same price. Okay, that's when these assets become distressed, my friend. Okay, and you're going to be able to buy them for significant discounts, and that's how. Answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good question. I don't know anything about Michigan, Julian. Although my first interview was a guy named Albert Barras in Ann Arbor, Michigan, billionaire, literally a billionaire. It's a funny story. And he was my first interview. And I was pretty petrified. It's the first time I'd interviewed a billionaire. And I'm an hour in on the interview and realized I forgot to hit the record button. I was freaking mortified. But he's a cool guy. He's been on the show like 2 or 3 times. I'll tell you another funny story, just to digress for a second. We invited him to speak at my mastermind. So I host a mastermind of some of the largest multifamily players on the planet. And there's about 35 billion in there, I believe, in assets. And my assistant called his assistant and said, hey, we're going to fly Albert down first class. We're going to put him up at the Ritz-Carlton. We're really excited he's coming. And his assistant, Nina's like, no. He'll take his own jet down. It's cool. Like, yeah, baby. Anyway, cool guy in Michigan. All right. I shouldn't be allowed to answer questions because I can get derailed. What kind of digital marketing do we need as a new syndicator? Anonymous attendee. If you're going to be anonymous, I'm not going to let you answer your question there, brother or sister. So what kind of digital marketing? I have a course on this. I'll give you a screaming deal if you want it. Just DM me and I'll give you a great deal. I think it's on the website for $1,500. I'll give you a third of that or something, but just DM me. It's awesome. It's called Crushing It on Social Media. Okay. I'm really proud of it. I mean, yeah, I've done pretty good on social media. Got the largest multifamily Facebook group. Podcast is the largest commercial real estate podcast on the planet. We're about to hit 17 million downloads. So, I think I've got a little background for this. All right, let me just see if there's any. How do you know they're in foreclosure? Well, a broker will tell you, Irene. Okay. Are there any legal concerns for cold calling? No, not at all. Unless maybe you're licensed. Possibly if you're licensed. I don't know if you've got a real estate license, if that's an issue. Yeah, remote.co is for VAs. I think it's remote.co. If I screwed that up, forgive me. If you it is remote.co. Yeah, he just gave me a thumbs up. That's for Latin American VAs, yes. Buying from a bank, okay? Again, I talked about this earlier. Banks cannot have properties on their books, and they will very often finance them if they take what's called an REO property back. REO stands for real estate owned. So start relationships with your bankers. How do you start your relationship? Now, I'm not talking about the big banks. I'm not talking about Wells Fargo, BB&T, B of A, Chase, none of those. I'm talking about the local and regional banks, okay? You want to find out who handles commercial real estate there. You want to go take them to lunch. Find out what their buy criteria, so their loan criteria is. Build relationships, again. And if you build a good enough relationship, not only will you get phenomenal financing options, but if they get an REO property, they'll call you and say, hey, can you do something with this deal? And they'll very often finance it. So banks are a big deal, okay? Especially in what's coming, guys. So if you're going to buy in a particular market and it's not where you live, call the banks and say, do you loan to out-of-state investors? If they say no, go on to the next one. Find one that does. You go visit them. When you go visit there, start that relationship. Typically, you want to open an account there. They're relationship driven with accounts as well. So you want to open an account, put a few bucks in there if you can, and that's how you get that process going. Okay, other ways to find deals. Service companies. If somebody's going to sell a property, they're going to paint it. They're going to juice up the landscaping. They're going to do things, and these people will know. Pool guy is going to know. Window repair guy. These guys talk. They're going to know who's going to sell. You tell them, listen, I'll stroke you a check for 20 grand, 30 grand if I buy this asset, if you find something for me or whatever it is, whatever you think will juice them. And I can tell you, I have students that have found deals this way. So service guys, and like I say, offer a finder's fee. Okay, I'm going to take some questions, but I want to tell you something. As it relates to, well, let me just say it like this. There's not one common denominator between my successful students and the ones that aren't, except for a few things. And when I say there's no common denominator, it means it doesn't matter where you came from. I've been blessed to have hundreds of successful, really now over 1,000 successful students. And I've been blessed to have gotten hundreds of DMs and emails and videos and cards from people whose lives have been changed through real estate investing, right? So I've been blessed to get that. But I've also been blessed to be in front of people that I know have all the capabilities to do anything they want, and yet they fall back into old routines, and they don't realize that the only thing stopping them is the stories that they tell themselves, okay? And sometimes you're in a group like this and you're connecting, you're seeing these questions come up and you're hearing them, and you meet and you're hearing some of these things, and you look left and right and you say, wow, these guys really have it going on, or they're going to be great at this, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this, or man, she sounds like she's on fire and my wife's not that really supportive of me, or I hope I can start this, or you're asking, is Rod really the guy that's going to be the person that really helps me with this? I'm too new to Rod. I just started following Rod last week, right? Or man, I really don't have the money to do this. I hope I can figure it out. Or my area is too hot. Or the deals are in the Southeast, but I live in New York. Or maybe you've gotten to a level of success and you haven't kept, investing in yourself and your environment, and you blame other people. Like, we come up with all of these things, and you look around, you start telling yourself these crappy stories, and they're frankly just not true, okay? So what's important to remember is that the only thing standing between you and what you want for your life is the story you tell yourself. The story you tell yourself on how you can achieve it or how you can't achieve it. So I just want to tell you that instead of looking around at others, I want you to just look in the mirror and realize that I've been doing this for a good bit now, and the people who win are the ones that find a way to change their story, and then they just go do it. My catchphrase is massive freaking action, okay? I'd love to tell you it's some deep spiritual secret to success, but it's the people who overcame the negativity, who find a way to shut out the people that make them feel bad. They keep their confidence high, and they don't do things that are going to ding their confidence, right? They don't listen to the naysayers. If you join me at my boot camp, you're going to find out what your why is, and your whys are super important. They focus, the successful students and the people that I work with focus on their whys, and they don't give up when they hit a little bump in the road. See, there's no differences when you look at my successful people that I've helped. They come from every background and every walk of life, from no money to lots of money, from brokered and broke to eating ramen noodles to I've had Major League Basketball stars, NFL players, famous actors. I mean, I've been blessed to have the whole spectrum, and there's no common denominator. It's not income. It's not education. It's not race. It's not place where you live. I've got students in Manhattan that are successful, and I've got some that live in a town of 2,000 people. The common denominator is the people who change their story and then they just go for it, okay? So I want to share something about the fact now that you're going to be an entrepreneur, and then I'll answer some more questions, okay? So if you are in a W-2 job, if you're not already, you are now becoming an entrepreneur. And I want to take a minute and just talk about what that means, because it's important, okay? As an entrepreneur, if you're watching me and you're working that regular job and you feel like you might be stuck in the rat race, and you know that you've got to go out there and make something happen and take action with what you've learned at this workshop, it's going to require you to take off that employee hat and put on your entrepreneur hat, okay? And again, it's going to require you to get uncomfortable and push through fear. That life of your dreams is just on the other side of comfort and fear, like I said. Now, entrepreneurship in this multifamily business is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can enjoy the rest of your life like most people can't. You know, to live that life that you and your family want and deserve. It's not just about dreaming. It requires doing, which really requires your desire for success to be stronger than your fear of failure. It requires you to have will and determination and to push through and persevere, regardless of the setbacks that you're going to encounter. Are you going to have setbacks? You bet. If you're not, you're not trying. Now, half of what separates a successful entrepreneur from the non-successful ones is just pure freaking grit and determination and perseverance, okay? Not giving up on their dreams. Life is too short for you to be working someone else's dream, okay? You know, I talk about goals. 3% of the world has goals. The other 97% work for that 3%, okay? So make a decision to own this stuff and make it happen no matter what, so you can play and live that life of freedom later. The richest man in the world at the time, for a long time, was Jeff Bezos. And he said, I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that, but I knew one thing I'd regret, and that's trying, not trying, okay? And I remember when everybody was laughing at him trying to sell books online, and now he's, I think, top 3 wealthiest in the world all the time. Now remember, entrepreneurship is realizing that you may have setbacks. You may also not know all the answers when you start. You see, that path to success is not a straight line. And as you know now, if you have setbacks and you learn from them and you continue to grow, you're going to be just fine. If you lose more than 50 million, you let me know. But I recovered and I came back. Now, you never lose when you're an entrepreneur in business. You either win or it's a learning experience. I call them seminars. That was a $50 million seminar, right? Winston Churchill said, success is walking from one failure to another failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Now, I remember I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, beautiful human being, and I met her at a mastermind, and she started with $5,000, and she was in Forbes. She's in the Forbes issue I've got right here. She's over $1 billion. And she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, what have you failed at today? What an awesome question, to not fear failure. Now, I've had scores of seminars or failures throughout my life. I've failed my way to success. And in that way, entrepreneurs are really like sharks. They don't die unless they stop moving. So the first step to being an entrepreneur is having a vision and goals. You've got to do that. If you don't come to my boot camp, you know, go do your goals for sure. Then you come up with a plan to achieve that target and you start by the way, I forgot to mention, I have a goal setting workshop on Rod's links. Make sure you write down Rod's links. Go to the bottom. I do it every year on January 1st. My goal setting workshop is a guide you can download. Do it. Have your kids do it. Have your spouse do it. Again, we spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than we do designing their lives. So if you can't make the boot camp, at least do your goals, okay? And then you come up with a plan to achieve your target and achieve that goal, and you start executing on that plan. That's why you need to come spend 3 days with me so you can get that action plan. Okay, I'm telling you, be glad you did. I promise you. It's a lot of fun. Now, entrepreneurship is not a 9-to-5 scenario. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, said entrepreneurs don't finish when we're tired. We finish when we're done, right? Entrepreneurship requires you to make a decision not to be average, to make a decision to be freaking awesome, okay? So I want to, I'm going to take some questions, but I want to mention my boot camp one more quick time. Oh, also, if you want to apply to my Warrior program, text CRUSH to 72345 to apply. We'll have some phone calls, and I'll be talking to you personally if you do. And then my boot camp, again, September 15th through the 17th. Come for $197. Just use the code FINDINGDEALS. I could easily charge $3,000. I'm not exaggerating, okay? Nobody does as comprehensive a training as I do at this 3-day boot camp in this business at all. Nobody comes close. It's not a big sales pitch. It's just 3 freaking days of training about every aspect of this business. I hope to God you come. If you've got questions, throw them in, and I will answer some questions. And then we will call it wow, I did it in 2 hours. I thought I was going to take longer. I hope I didn't go too freaking fast, guys. Forgive me. You know, I had too much coffee. All right, let me look at the questions. If you put the questions in the Q&A, it'll be easier for me. Okay, you say look locally, but there are no deals on LoopNet in Estero. Well, then go. When I said locally, Ivan, I said 2 hours in any direction, okay? That you can do that in day travel. I'm going to have you calling some people, so pee fast. Call him out publicly. Okay, what's the best, most common way to split up equity in a deal? That is a very detailed question, Calvin, and I go into great detail at the boot camp on that. But let me tell you this, okay? So deals are split up between general partners, because if you're buying a $40 million asset, for example, you know, first of all, you got to have enough net worth on the team to have a net worth equal to the loan amount. That's required for that debt. So you have to have a net worth equal to the loan amount, which is the team's net worth. You also have to have post-closing liquidity, meaning after closing, you got to have 10% of the loan amount in the bank in liquidity. Team's liquidity, okay? That's the beautiful thing about this sport. It's a team sport. It doesn't have to be your money. It doesn't have to be your net worth. You just have to bring on somebody that's wealthy onto the team to do this. But you're going to carve up the deal. Now, the person that brings the deal and organizes it and runs it all the way through closing, very often that's 5 to 10% of the general partnership. The people that raise the money typically can be as much as 30% of the partnership. The person that's lending their resume, their net worth and liquidity to the deal could be 10%. The at-risk capital, whoever's putting up the earnest money on the deal, which is the at-risk capital, the money to the financing, you got to pay for an appraisal and stuff like that. That's at-risk capital. The third-party reports, the due diligence costs, that's all at-risk capital, and that's typically about 10% of the deal. And you can raise all this, guys. You don't have to have a dime in these deals. I don't have a dime in the 4,000 plus units that I have right now. I don't have a dime in them. And you're saying, okay, well, that's Rod. No, my students have raised hundreds of millions of dollars for their deals, and many of them don't have money in their deals, okay? So that's the beautiful thing about this business. Now, this is not like no money down BS from a guru or something like this. This is real. This is how this business is done, okay? So, and then the asset management, Calvin's typically the largest piece. That's typically 40%, because that goes on for years after you buy the property. I hope that helps, Calvin. But you know, we've got spreadsheets that we give you that break all this out, because you could have 3 or 4 people in each section, and you've got to split it all out. It can become pretty complex. Can I start this path with not much capital? Listen, if you can bring deals to a team, Santiago, you should come to my boot camp so you can meet a bunch of teams. But if you can find deals for a team, that's one way to get ingrained with a team. The other way, the biggest way, is to bring money, is to raise money. Now, let me say this as a caveat. You cannot just raise money for a deal. You have to be involved in the deal, okay? Otherwise, you're a money raiser, okay? So you have to be involved in the deal. You'd be there for the due diligence, whatever. But a lot of people get into deals, become general partners in deals by just raising money as the main thing they do. Okay, but again, you got to be involved, and I go into that in great detail at the event. Do I know of a property management company that has a relationship with investors to let them know when sellers are looking for buyers? No, you develop that relationship, Phyllis. You call that property management company. I have that book, How to Hire a Third-Party Property Management Company. It's in your resources at rodslinks.com. Don't look at it now because we're still going through some questions, but check it out. And just start a relationship with property management companies in the market you want to buy in, and say, hey, if you ever know of a seller that's selling, I hope you'll let me know, because I'd love to work with you and obviously buy another property. You're an Osprey. Oh, you're looking for a local company. DM me. I'm not going to take time to do that right now. Thank you, Cash. I appreciate your kind words, brother. Thank you, Alan. Can you 1031 into a syndication? Great question, Ryan. You absolutely can. It's called a tenants in common deal, a TIC deal. And we have comprehensive coaching calls in our warrior group on how to do that, because there's some complexities, okay? But you absolutely can. You just need to have a good SEC attorney help you with that. Yeah, Lewis, I got a pro forma recently. They were valuing the building based on potential rent, not the actual. Again, pro formas are toilet paper, okay? I mean, you know, you got to do your own numbers. And, you know, at the boot camp, I teach you how to normalize the expenses. You'll get a P&L on the property, and I teach you how to make it accurate, okay? You get a worksheet on how to make it accurate and normalize the income and the expenses so you can properly evaluate it. It's not complex, but it's important that you know how to do that. Will I go over the best way to underwrite small multiple? I do that at the boot camp, Alice. I can't do that here. Yes, I absolutely. We go into underwriting in a big way at the boot camp for sure. Okay, Max, I know in the loaded questions, unsure economic times with high interest rate, comfortable, safe returns on bonds. How do you people? Okay, good question. In these unsure economic times with high interest rates and comfortable, safe returns on bonds, and even in banks, you can get 4 or 5% right now. How do you inspire people to invest their capital with you in multifamily deals? Well, I can show them they'll get 15%, Max, okay? So, you know, there's some risk involved, obviously, with anything that you do, but you know, you can have a preferred return of 8%, for example, which is almost double what they can get the bank. So, you know, it's compelling. And if you know, if you invest with an operator who knows what they're doing, they've done some deals, you know, it's a great way to get going. By the way, if you're an accredited investor, you should get on our radar. Go to creecapital.com, creecapital.com, and get on our radar, and we'll let you know when we find a deal. And our deals are extraordinary because I am super conservative. You lose 50 million, you become pretty freaking conservative. Charlie, how do you find local, successful, experienced entrepreneurs? Well, no better place than my boot camp, brother. But locally, you'd go to meetups and stuff. Okay. Christine, I answer that the money investors typically 30% is what we do. Okay. Q&A. Okay. All right, guys. I hope I get to see you at my boot camp. Honestly, it's a kick in the butt. There'll be 1,000 people there, and I mean, it's like you will cry, you will laugh. You will, I promise you, you'll be so freaking juiced when you leave. You want to be coming out of your skin. You'll meet some extraordinary people because right now, guys, your peer group is super important. You know, who you hang out with, especially through what's coming, through this economic, you know, time that we're going through. You want to be around people that aren't afraid of your dreams, okay? Because there's going to be a lot of fear. And that's why the goals are important and your peer group is critical. You know, most people default to a peer group that they went to school with or that they, you know, that they work with, for example. And those people may not have their best interest, you know, your best interests at heart, right? So be proactive who you allow to influence you. Be proactive. Get around people that want more out of life. That's what we have in our Warrior program. If you're, you know, if you feel like you want to check that out, again, text CRUSH to 72345. Come to my boot camp. If you can't make either of those, then for God's sakes, go to your local meetup groups. Try to find a multifamily meetup because the single family ones are kind of mind numbing. A lot of old people that are just there for camaraderie. But you'll find a few young ones, or I shouldn't say it like that. That was mean. But the bottom line is you want to get around people that want more out of life, that aren't going to poo-poo your dreams. Okay, so your peer group is super critical. Your focus is super critical right now. And like I said, don't get caught up in the news. I find myself getting caught up in the crap. Even on social, it's like ridiculous sometimes what you see there. And so just be real careful. Get clear on what you want. Get clear on why you want it. Stay focused on that. Read those goals every morning when you get up, and they will manifest. Get pictures of them. Put them around you. So these are my vision boards. Now this is actually a gratitude board because everything starts from a place of gratitude. So these are my kids when they were young. My son had his birthday today. He's 28 today. There's a picture with my boy. You know, when he was a kid. I remember giving my brother you know, a $30,000 Rolex. That was a gift. My foundation handing gifts, you know, handing baskets out. We fed 140,000 children here in Sarasota, Bradenton. I'm not bragging, but I mean, that's my gratitude board. And it all starts with gratitude. This is my travel board. These are places I've been or I want to go to again, you know? So I've got vision boards for everything that I want in life. Okay. Here's one for private jets. I fly privately now sometimes. And then this last one, I've lost some of the pictures on this, but I want to build schools in third world countries, in Latin America primarily, and self-sustaining schools that sustain themselves. Get vision boards for yourself. Do your goals, get them around you, okay? Now, you also want to use I am statements. There's no greater force in the human psyche than the need to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves. People will fight and die over their identity. And so you can use this to build your courage, to build your fortitude. Like I've got I am statements all over my exercise room downstairs. Here's one, I am health and energy, okay? And so, you know, I've got, I am a business genius. I am success. I am world's greatest husband. And these are what I aspire to be, right? I am courage. If I'm ever struggling, I will chant, I am courage. I used to do it running down the freaking street. In fact, my kids help me at my boot camps, and that's the question they get most often. Did you really do that shit? Did you really yell? And you're like, oh God, yeah. Now I've got an exercise room so nobody has to hear me and suffer through it. But yeah, when you yell these things out with all your being, it gets into your fiber of your being, gets into your, you know, it becomes kinesthetic. It becomes, you know, really goes deep, and it helps you push through things. So use the I am statements. I've got these on the wall downstairs. I wish I could show you in my exercise room, got them in my office. They work very, very well. So peer group, I told you about making a decision. You got to make a decision. Then you got to make that first step. Okay. You take that first step in faith, you know, and I know some of you that are analytical, you know who you are, and I love you. You have to check off every single box before you make a move. Don't get caught up in that. Remember this, you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlights seeing only 50 feet in front of you, and you know you'll make it. You may have obstacles, but you know other people have done it before you. It's the same way with this business, okay? Check us out, come to the boot camp or check into my Warrior program, and we'll help you. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Wheel's done. You just have to work the wheel, okay? And so, you know, so there's that. You got to take that first step. You get around the peer group you want. And then the last, well, maybe a couple more things. One thing I want to mention is play to your strengths, okay? You know, a lot of people will tell you to build your weaknesses. Your strengths are your greatest assets, okay? And when you're playing in your strengths, you love what you do. I mean, I'm here on a Saturday. I have a supermodel, beautiful wife waiting for me at the house, and I'm here screwing around here, having fun with you guys because I freaking love this. Can you tell I love this? And so, you know, when you love what you do, you're also passionate about it. And you have to influence people in this business. You got to influence investors and brokers and sellers. And if you love what you do, that passion is infectious, okay? And so play to your strengths. And there are lots, again, there are different hats you can wear in this business. You can be the mouthpiece like me, or you can be the, you know, the underwriter and the analytical piece. You could be the asset manager. There's lots of hats you can wear, but you want to play to your strengths for that reason. Super important. And don't fear failure, okay? We fail our way to success, guys. I've built 27 businesses, several worth tens of millions of dollars, most spectacular flaming seminars, okay? You know, and again, we fail our way to success. So don't fear failure, fear regret. There was this nurse in Australia. She was a hospice nurse, and she used to ask her patients that were about to die, do you have any regrets? She wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. Her name's Bronnie Ware. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. So please don't fall into that trap, okay? And when I tell you, if there was ever a freaking time to learn, and let me say this, okay? If you're not sure about multifamily, no problem. Everything is going on sale. You could buy businesses in what's coming. You could buy other asset classes of real estate, cars, everything's going on sale. But pick your vehicle immediately. And learn it as fast as you can, because the proverbial crap is about to hit the fan. I'm telling you, it's coming. So, and when it does, if you're up to speed and you've already built relationships and you're ready to go and capitalize on it, even if you don't have a lot of money, it doesn't require a lot of money, because there's going to be money looking for a home. Lost my breath. So I got excited, but don't wait. Okay. If you're going to learn how to buy businesses, go learn. So you're ready to go. If it's multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. But learn it as fast as you can. What else? Oh gosh. Anyway, you guys, I'm going to call it here. Have a fantastic weekend. Go make something happen for yourself. Please don't let this be entertainment. Take freaking action. Okay. If you can't make my boot camp, at least go to Rod's links, do the goal setting with your family. If the kids are over 10 years old, have them do it. If you can bring them to the boot camp, we will have a blast, okay? I'm telling you, if you can, for $197, again, kind of a no-brainer. It's really about the travel if you can spare it. But it's over a weekend. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And anyway, and if you've got any other questions I didn't answer, DM me on social. I answer every single question. And again, a lot of resources at Rod's links. Yeah, anything else? We good? Okay, thanks guys. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Take care. All right. We'll see you later.